Let me give you a personal illustration of what I'm talking about this morning. How many people here have ever heard of Johnny Erickson Tata? All right. And again, John Erickson Tata was born in 1949, so a lot of young people might not know her. Baltimore, Maryland. She had 3 sisters. She lived a very active lifestyle, but in 1967, she dove into Chesapeake Bay, didn't check the depth of the water, ended up suffering a fracture between the 4th and 5th cervical and in her neck, and she became a quadriplegic. That means paralyzed from the neck down. Right? Now, 2 years of rehabilitation. And naturally, she experienced anger, depression, suicidal thoughts. She was a believer. Religious doubts. Why would God allow this to happen to me? During her occupational therapy, she learned to paint and to brush with a brush between her teeth. In fact, you could buy cards that are painted by Johnny Erickson Tata, and I've used these. She began selling her artwork. In fact, she's written over 40 books. Right? Came out with a movie in 1976, Johnny, the unforgettable story of a woman's struggle with depression and being a quadriplegic. Right? But I'm saying this for 1979, out of this circumstance, she started a ministry called Johnny and Friends. And what that ministry was, to accelerate Christian understanding and ministry among the disabled community, a community that was forgotten. And so throughout the world, Africa and throughout the world, that she ended up having a ministry, taking wheelchairs, other equipment, and ministering to these people. Young woman approached me when I was a pastor up in New Jersey and wanted to go on a short-term mission trip. A lot of people would go on short-term mission trips. We would support them. And what she was doing, she was going to be taking wheelchairs and physical therapy equipment, because she was a physical therapist, to Ghana, West Africa, that she was under the umbrella of Johnny and Friends. So we supported her. She went over there, was able to take wheelchairs and so forth. She went over another year. But eventually she fell in love with an African pastor by the name of Joseph Jehu Apaya. They married, and God pressed them to start a Mephibosheth ministry. But nobody really supported them, so they started themselves with a couple children. Back at that time, when people had disabled children in Africa, men just discarded them in the jungle, buried them alive. Right? And their view was that they are a creation of Almighty God, and God has a purpose for them. So they started a school that would train the disabled children, give them an education, and help them to be able to support themselves, or at least care for themselves, and teach their families how to help them. And so again, began with a few children. Now it's like 5, 6 buildings, and ended up now over 100 children. All right, imagine having 100 disabled children living in your house. All right, I raised 7, all right? And that's literally what happened. They live there, and they take care of them. Well, what ended up happening, then they ended up coming to me and said, well, maybe you could send a group over to the church and would minister to children. So we ended up, went over, now well over 10 years, ministering to kids in that area around the school. What ended up happening is thousands of kids were saved. I mean, we would have Bible schools. I remember they told me, well, come over and you'll have 200 kids. All right, so I had my Bible school already planned, 200. First day, over 2,000 show up. Ooh. Right. And it's literally God. In fact, this last trip we were there, we saw kids that were ministered in Bible school, came to know the Lord, were involved in the ministry of the passion. They were doing ministry. Pastor Joe started a church, and there was a church there. But I'm saying all of this started with a girl that dived in the Chesapeake Bay. And her life, quote, was apparently destroyed. It was gone. But was it? And look what God accomplished beyond what we could ever understand. I'm saying things are going to touch your life and my life, and we're going to say, I just got to throw up my hands. I got to give up. No, no, no. We have a God who wants to display his glory and taking the ashes of your life and my life and doing something beyond we could ever imagine, that will be carried not only in our lifetime, but in the lifetimes that follow. See, the question is going to be, when these times come, am I going to give in to fear, We sung that song, I'm no longer a prisoner of fear. Or are we going to say, you know what, I have a God now I can trust. I trust in His wisdom that He will accomplish His will and His plan. And that in the end, I'm going to see that all things work together for good.